tere hommikust! Mul on väga hea meel täna siin olla ja
Good morning.
rääkida mõne
I'm very
sõnaga
happy to be
sellest,
here today and
mis on see laiem pilt,
talk
kuhu
briefly
agenda
about
projekt asetub
the wider picture in which the agenda project was situated.
Agenda projekt on üks
The
osa
project
ühest
agenda was
suurest
part of a larger
täiskasvanuhariduse
adult
nii-öelda
education
agendast
agenda,
või
so to speak.
eesmärkidest.
A set of
Paar sõna
objectives.
siis sellest, et millised on
So
meie
a few
sihid,
words about our
milline
objectives,
on olukord praegu
about the current
millised on
situation,
need väljakutsed
and what are the
meie ees.
challenges
Ja siis ka
that we are
sellest,
faced
millised on
with.
need õppimisvõimalused.
Also a few words about education opportunities.
Ilmselt tegutsejad on kõik kuulnud,
Those who are active in the field of education have probably heard
kirjas
that our objectives have all been written down in the Estonian lifelong learning strategy,
toodud 5 eesmärki tegelikult
and it
kõik
outlines
ju
5
on
strategic
asjakohased ka
objectives. And
täiskasvanuharidusest
of course, these
rääkides.
all apply to adult
Kui siin
education as well.
täiskasvanuhariduses eesmärke seati, siis kõige rohkem
When we were
on
setting goals
rõhuasetus
in
siin sellel
adult
viimasel
education,
punktil,
the
et
last
siis
point got the most emphasis.
oleksid
And the last point was
võimalused
that adult education participants should also have equal opportunities for lifelong learning, equal access to
ja oleme mõelnud ka meetmetele, et
for self-actualization throughout their year. We have also thought about how to motivate adult learners to continue in their education.
Eesmärgide juures mõõdikud.
Of course, all these objectives also have indicators that come with them, ways of measuring these objectives. And when it comes to learning, of course, it's very hard to put it in tangible indicators, because how people learn and what they learn, it differs greatly. At the same time, in Estonia and in Europe, there is a generalized indicator about participation in lifelong learning, and that is also something that the ministry is keeping a close eye on. So by the year 2020, we should reach 20% participation. So what do they measure, or what do we measure? People are asked, the Statistics Estonia carries out a labor force study, and they ask whether the respondent has participated in a training course, in a seminar over the past few weeks. And this method is similar across Europe. And as you can see on this slide, Estonian people are more and more active when it comes to education. For example, if we look at the years 2010 to 2015, the participation rates were around 11-12%, but over the last few years we have seen a very wonderful tendency that participation in learning has significantly increased. Last year we reached 15.7%. And in the second quarter of this year, our record has been broken, and we are currently at 18.3%. When we set this objective that by 2020 we should have every 5th adult in continuing education or in training, it seemed to be very difficult to achieve. But the results of these past 2 years give us hope that we are moving in the right direction, and that the objectives that we set do justify themselves, and they are justifiably ambitious. At the same time, they are completely reachable. When we look at this general indicator, then it might seem that everything is just fine, that we are moving towards the objective, and there don't seem to be very many problem areas. However, we also have to look at the indicator more closely, because different groups of people do participate in lifelong learning in different ways. For example, we can look at the regions. Where do people participate more? Where do they participate less? Are there any gender differences? However, here is a very important indicator that we have pointed out. What we have discovered is that the higher a person's education is, the more they continue their education. So if a person has a university education already, then every fifth person with a university education does continue their education. But if we talk about those who have discontinued their education path before even finishing high school, so there the percentage of continuing education is 5%. So the difference is basically fivefold. However, education does influence greatly how our people are able to cope in their everyday lives. And the less education a person has, the more the risks of remaining on the labor market. And of course, when it comes to income, it also complicates things if a person has less education. Now, when we look at the statistics, we can't say that a marginal number of people are in problems who have dropped out of secondary education. So we can't say that there are very few of those people. So we can't say that, oh, they're adults, they will manage just fine. If we look at the whole adult population, then it's about 80,000 people who, for some reason, have not obtained secondary education. And if we look at younger people, then people aged 25 to 34, it's about 18,000 of them. And then aged 35 to 44, it's about 19,000. And above that, it's a little over 40,000. And only a very small percentage of these people have gotten back to school to obtain their secondary education. It amounts to a little less than 6,000 people. So we might wonder why. What is the problem? Are there no opportunities to continue education? However, we do have opportunities. We have adult education schools, 16 of them located across Estonia. And in Tallinn, we also have the Audentes E High School, which is not free of charge. It does have a tuition. However, maybe it's something else. The secondary education can also be obtained in combination with vocational education. We have over 30 vocational education institutions across Estonia. And there, people can also obtain either a profession or a combined profession and secondary education. And those who have continued their education, of course, university studies full-time are free of charge in Estonia. And adults over 30, and they are becoming more and more numerous in our universities. Here I have also written down that ever since last fall, in adult high schools across Estonia, we have launched programs supported by the ESF. And these programs are actually geared towards opening the school doors to a wider public, to encourage people to come back to school more, to offer preparatory courses, e-courses, to distribute information about these schools, that they exist, they are there, their doors are open for adult learners. So the hope is that the information will be disseminated, people will hear about the learning opportunities, not just through agenda, but through these ESF projects. Now, a few more words about learning opportunities. Of course, sometimes going back to school might seem like a step that is just too big to make. However, we also have opportunities to take short-term training courses. Here I have given you two examples of what kinds of free training programs there are. At the Ministry of Education and Research, I work for a program. And within this program, institutions organized training courses that are vocational across Estonia. Then they can be, for example, courses in roof building or insulation or healthy eating, nutrition, also computers, IT skills. So the selection is really very diverse. And in addition to these projects, across Estonia, there are projects that support people's development of their key skills, as well as educational motivation. And there are training centers across Estonia that carry out these courses, so it's definitely worth keeping an eye on those. And like I mentioned, these are two bigger frameworks or programs that have European Union support. However, of course, there are very many other instances that organize training courses, and there is a lot of offer on the market. And I do mean those training courses that are free of charge. Of course, the training market, so to speak, also has very many other possibilities, but those carry a fee. Now, in speaking about the diversity, the point that I'm trying to make is it's not a lack of opportunities. Perhaps it's a matter of awareness and willingness to learn. So on the one hand, it's very important to raise awareness among people, but at the same time, they also need encouragement. And here, the Ministry of Education and Research has already worked for years with the Association of Estonian Adult Educators, ANDRAS. Right now, for example, we have undertaken a large-scale awareness campaign. Continue studies with other adults. Perhaps you have seen the video clips or the advertisement clips with our famous singer Tanel Padar. Perhaps you've heard them on the radio. Of course, the package, so to speak, of activities is quite diverse. And across Estonia, we have experience exchanges, information exchanges. And during these exchanges, we have people who have experience in adult education who disseminate this information to those who are interested. In 2012, the European Commission launched the adult education agenda. And all member states had the opportunity to apply for funding, and they had to choose a problem area that they wanted to use this support for. So whether it was policy making or awareness raising. And at the beginning, it was the ministry that applied for this funding, but as of 2013, The agenda coordination has been carried out by Andras. And actually, we are very happy that right now we have focused more specifically on those adults who have incomplete education career paths and those adults who have small children. But at this point, I would like to wrap up my presentation, and you will hear more about the agenda project as throughout the day. Thank you.